Good morning, good afternoon, welcome everyone, depending on where you're joining us today from. We at Maarga System would like to thank you for taking the time out to join today's webinar, where we will be talking about hybrid solutions for Domino applications and how to maximize the ROI, basically. Um, Before we go further, let me have a quick introduction of myself. I'm Chirag Barate. I head engineering and technology strategy for Maarga Systems. And joining me today from the technical expertise um, side is Linoy, who is our chief technical architect on Lotus Domino, as well as the modern technologies which we use to migrate Lotus Domino apps. So before we jump into the topic today, I just wanted to give a very brief introduction about Maarga Systems. We are a boutique technology consultancy firm which specializes in working on the business process collaboration and digital transformation areas for large enterprises. And we do that with five key areas, which is automating business processes and digital transformation, migrating existing solutions and migrating between technology stacks stack to another, and this could be either from IBM to IBM, IBM to Microsoft, or any which ways. We also deal a lot with collaboration related technology consulting and also adoption consulting. Which is to help organizations to adopt these technologies and get better outcomes from them. And managing large migrations, large app development projects as a standard service is also something that we do as part of our portfolio. So with that, I think we are set to start with our topic, which is the hybrid applications scenario for Domino applications. And the key things that we would be covering is I would be starting off with a brief I would say, overview of the domain that we are talking about and why there is a need for migration and what are the key challenges with the full migration. And that is one of the reasons why one of the options that we propose to customers is a hybrid solution. And Linoy then would follow through and talk more about how we architect a hybrid application, how it works. And he would also discuss a couple of scenarios where we have helped our clients in having a hybrid scenario working with different technologies. One of them comes from Open UI side, another comes from a pure mean stack aligned with Domino. So let me, before I jump on into the topic, where we wanted to understand the audience that we are talking to today, that would help us tune our conversation better. So Scott, if you can help us run the first poll, which basically is to understand the role of the person in the organization.
Perfect. So the first poll is on your screen. So what is your role in the organization? Are you an IT team managing Domino infrastructure? Are you managing the Domino applications? Are you a business team using Domino applications? Or are you a business analyst or developer? Or are you classified as other at this point? So about 80% of the audience has voted in the poll. That's great. Let's see if we can get up to 90. We're almost there. Let's get one more click. So don't be shy, grab a mouse, do a click, and we had 3 more people join. It's dropped our average down a little bit. Okay, we're over 80%, so that's great. Let me go ahead and share the results. So 42% are in infrastructure, 42% in the Domino application side, and the rest are analyst, developer, or other.
Excellent. So we have a good mix, and I think that aligns because we talk to these two groups a lot in large enterprises where there is a workplace services team which manages the infrastructure and the support of it, and then there is the enterprise applications team which manages the development of applications and its support. So those are the two core roles that we talk to often when we are talking about Domino and Domino apps. So it's good to know that we have a good mix of those roles in today's webinar. So with that, I would like to briefly cover why we are migrating. And now I'm not going to go into the nitty gritties because I know that a lot of us do come from the Domino background and have a long legacy in it. So we know where the Domino platform is moving and how it has evolved. But I wanted to highlight a few key things which are triggering our existing clients who have been loyal to Lotus Domino and applications on Domino, looking at migrations. And one of the things is the legacy UI that Lotus Domino applications had. It was built long time ago, and then um, mm, over time the technologies have evolved and the needs from end users and the expectations have evolved, and those applications do not keep up to those expectations. So that's one of the key reasons why we look at a modernization or upgrade or migration to a different platform. Second is difficulties of integration. Now, Domino apps have been integrated to a lot of different platforms, but as we go forward, managing and maintaining this kind of integrations and building them as newer versions of the applications are rolled out becomes a challenge. Um, Restrictive functionalities is not typically from purely the Domino side, because I know it was a fairly flexible platform and allowed to do a lot of things a lot more easily than we do in today's platforms. But what I mean by that is the restrictive functionalities in today's context, where you need a mobile responsive UI, you need application quickly, which could be built using existing frameworks from the market, and those are the things that are more in demand in today's world. And that also leads to the next point, which is costly maintenance, because to manage and maintain Domino apps, you need a certain level of expertise, which is now rare to find in the market. And that brings up, that increases the cost for being on this system going forward. One interesting case that we have seen is the entire tech stack moving out. So there is absolutely no problem with your apps. There is absolutely no problem with Domino. But as an organization, you are moving to, let's say, Office 365 as a whole, and you're putting a lot of investments in that platform. And obviously, there is an expectation that, can I move some of these elements to Office 365? Or can I, since all my other apps look great on mobile interface, can I do something about my older apps which are on Lotus? So that is also triggering a lot of these migrations. And then the overall user friendliness of the application. Typically, if it was a client application, then it's a completely different deal, because if you moved your mail out of Lotus, then your client is gone. And then if you're retaining the client only to access certain applications, then there is a definite need to make them first web enabled, then mobile enabled, and then possibly at a later stage move it completely out to a new platform. So that's how customers are perceiving their Lotus applications today. So while I talked about why people are migrating or considering a migration, there are a lot of challenges with full set migration of all your Domino applications, and it starts with understanding your existing infrastructure. For a lot of customers, do not even have a clear scale today as to how deeply penetrated Domino applications are in their IT landscape, whether it's global, regional, and then if you go to the next stage, the migrating with all the existing data and its schema and still keeping it intact in a new platform, or migrating all the functionality. Now, Domino provided a lot of access control granularity, which is not available in even the latest platforms of today. So how do we move the application and still keep it usable? Or selection of a target platform is one of the key things that customers are struggling with. Or migration as is versus investments in UI and UX. So this is a different topic where you have decided that you want to migrate. Now, the next question is that, do I migrate as is, which is I invest in rebuilding the entire Domino app as is into a new platform? Or since I know that there were a lot of shortcomings, should I invest some more development effort, time, and money to make it better? And that's a whole different ballgame, because then you need to start with the whole requirement analysis, change requirements, and then do the change and do the migration together, which takes the complexity to a whole different level. So with the full migration, these are some of the key blockers that we see, where customers are stuck too long in the evaluation phase. And if I have to really classify those challenges, I would classify into these two buckets, which is business challenges and technical challenges. Um, I would quickly cover the technical challenges first and then come to the business challenges. So like I said, Domino apps have been widely penetrated. The key reason being they were easier to build. A business process can be up and running in a matter of days or weeks, and then once it is up, you have been using it for several years, which means you have large number of applications. You don't have any documentation to support what was built in that, and you possibly have a large amount of data backing those applications. Um, at the same time, you have document types which are encrypted or have complex rich text field with complex data in it, have attachments and versioning enabled on these documents. All of this adds to complexity when you're moving not just the app, but its associated data. And if you are talking about taking a live application which is still live in your Domino system and migrating it over, this adds to the complexity because the environment is constantly getting updated. So you need to maintain that, move it to a new system, and ensure that somehow there would still be continuity of usage. And it is not an archival scenario that we are talking about. We need to continue to use it in a meaningful way. So those are some of the key things that we have observed from our experience. On the business side, I think there are a few things like the cost involved for such a huge migration. Like I have had customers who on the initial analysis had 2000 applications. We drill it down and then archive some, remove some, delete some, and we are still left with at least 200 applications. uh, and the budget for such a migration does not come from one person or one department. Now it's scattered across regions and departments. How do you run a massive migration project with budget coming from different approval sources? So that becomes one of the key challenges from a business standpoint to take this forward. And then also the overall time to migrate and the compliance requirements around it. These are the other two factors apart from cost, which is how much time will I take, what will I do in the intermediate period when we are migrating, will there be sync across the two systems, and if I decide to skip something, if I decide to not take something to the new platform and then I sunset my Lotus Domino environment, what happens to my legal and compliance requirements if 1 year later someone comes in and says I need this for auditing purpose? What do I do in that scenario? So those are some of the business challenges when we are talking a full migration out of Lotus and completely to a new environment. And that is where we think that this hybrid option comes into play, where you know that you eventually would move, but you cannot take that decision today for various factors. You don't have the budget approval, or you don't have the target platform decided, but you still have a business need to modernize your applications, make them web enabled or mobile enabled, or do something else with the existing application. So all of that falls in the hybrid application scenario and forms the root for why hybrid applications are such a crucial topic to talk about. So with that understanding, I would like to then move to the options for hybrid applications, and I would like Linoy to take you through these options as well as how we have helped some of our customers. So Scott, if you can transfer the control to Linoy, who would be continuing with the rest of the presentation for today.
Okay,
Hey,
Illinois, the option should be there. We go. We can see your screen.
okay. Thank you, Scott, and thank you, Chirag, for giving the wonderful introduction and explaining the different angles of migrations and challenges that we are going through today. So, adding as the challenges that just now my colleague was explaining, Chirag was explaining about that. Domino, as we know that it's an interesting platform plus a complicated platform if we need to be when we create forms, ECL, ACL, and all the authentication stuffs make it more complex, and the security of the nodes is high capable, and it is very difficult to mimic. Even a field level encryption and a field level values, that means that formula in the field level computed values can change the entire migration stuff. So we have seen that, we have gone through that. Uh, so continue with that. What are our options for the full migration? So for the options are really, we can hybridize the app. We don't want to change the complete core of the applications. We don't want to complete a data out, move out. We can hybridize it in a way that we can leverage the Lotus Domino and the Node's existing app and get a outer UI kind of thing. uh, the next option is we can mobilize it. We can take a part of the application and mobile enable that. When I tell a part of the mobilization kind of thing, if the legacy application is full known, full functionality known, full architectural known, we can easily do that. Otherwise, we can do the part of that. The third option that we discovered is we have so many ready-made softwares available for the workflows that can do a minimal amount of work and the cloud enabled and everything. So that can be used as another option. Or if it is a big, large business model kind of thing, we can migrate to a BPM suite, like any of like HP or Dell that has been provided, and IBM is providing that. Also, that business suite can be done, or redevelop from the scratch to another technology, or in the technology that we don't really don't help in the Lotus Notes world, but we can just redevelop into another technology while migrating. When I say redevelop, it can be a part of it, it can be a portion of it, or it can enhance completely do that. Otherwise, the option is to archive the unused application by running a quick transaction logging kind of ability that taking who all are not using the application. If the application is used, how largely it is used, how many users it is going to be used, and all that taking into the control, we can archive unused application and go with that. So these are the really options that we have seen. But today we are going to concentrate on the hybridization methodology of that and how we achieve that. So before going to that, we're just going to look at what are hybrid apps, a small definition, a theoretical kind of move. So hybrid apps is a combination of the HTML5 world, that the technology that has contains as a CSS and JavaScript involved in it, and building, if it is needed for the mobile application platform, putting a native cover into that. So when using a native cover, we use the mobile platforms, web UI or UI web. Also, that depends upon which operating system you choose. And this is the hybrid apps, and it will be rapid and faster development and initial development focus. And that is the hybrid app, a little definitions of hybrid app is make it possible to embed the HTML5 app inside a thin native layer. It's contributing the best elements of a native plus HTML5. That is how it is defined. So we can a web app. It's ideally when it come to the very basic theoretical thing, it is a web app. We can be developed with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, HTML5. Sorry, and then that it can be wrapped with a thin container of the native container. There are minor headaches, especially with the development of different platforms. Even if it is a hybrid, there are different problems that small issues that which can be overcome. So we are going to discuss that also in our slide. But how this is going to help in the Domino environment, the hybrid environment. So how we defined is we put all the hybrid app development and a different cycle, and the data and the functionality, because as Chirag was explaining about leveraging the Lotus Notes legacy UI and the functionality, the legacy of the Lotus Notes and the functionality that's written into the Lotus Notes, how can we leverage that? That is what we are going to check. So getting the functionality, the workflow, already written code, which can be enabled to work with the hybrid app. That is one part, and invoking that controls with JavaScript and reusable mobiles, mobile components, because we are not going to build everything. We can have so much frameworks available on top, and we can reuse that and then embed a native device functionality into that. So that is what it is, hybrid apps. So integrating with Domino functionalities that we are looking for. So getting to the what are the quick wins or the benefits of hybrid app when we have seen is So we have seen that there is an enhanced user experience since it is an HTML5 CSS and JavaScript and all in the front end. We can do multiple things across different devices, responsiveness and everything. And the readily availability code. So there are frameworks available, there are APIs available, there are small CSS snippets that can be easily enhanced. So easy of enhancement. So if everything is a plug and play kind of thing that we can configure if we design our application very well. So if there is a new drag and drop functionality comes upon, we can just put it that JS file and incorporate it out. There is a new spinning technology that comes on everything. And the other benefit is we can enable the offline capability. For a mobile, we don't recommend a large number of data sitting on the mobile or in a device or in a even in a web browser kind of thing. The small containers of data that can leverage fasting the user experience. That is what we meant by the offline capability. And as Lotus Notes users, most of the people are already know about the offline capability, because if you don't have a server connection, the offline replica can make the things happen and then replicate once it comes in. So it's make easy. So and it's the maintenance making it easy a little bit because we don't want to go through different procedures to maintenance if most of the applications comes with a framework that we can really use. And if you ask what is the quick wins or what is the differentiators that between the benefits, we'll say that we have portability, that is one code base and multiple platform, most of the codes that can be reused, but there are little challenges that we are going to discuss about that in the later part of this presentation. And we can have access if the user is permitting to have access to different hardwares or softwares, even if it is Windows, iOS, or Android. So we can get some of the functionalities and the services that is available. And the initial investment of the cost for the for migration, when we see that will be reducing, and we'll getting a complete system that can plug into a different environment, and it is faster as well. It is faster on the case of development and how we design the UI and the things and the data flowing. It can be faster as it is. So these are the quick benefits and the quick wins that we have seen from the application developments. And really coming into that, what are our options? So we have not considered only the hybrid app support framework, but we have considered the technology that we are going to use for the JSS or any frameworks that we are going to use. So we have JavaScript as a basic step of everything. We can have Angular, we can have React.js, we can have jQuery mobile enabling it as backbone JS. There are so many other JS also. We can even leverage the X pages existing SSJS and the app design for this thing. And the hybrid app supporting frameworks, we know that there are so many. We have only pointed out two of them basically here, the PhoneGap and the Ionic in the Cordova Apache model. But there are so many workload apps, accelerators, Sencha, jQuery mobile kind of thing. So that is also used, but we have mainly concentrated on the Ionic and PhoneGap with the Cordova and get. That's the use cases that we are going to get it through. So these are the really options available, and we have so much other options. We handpick some of the things from our experiences and we get it, but we are going to explain about the Ionic and the Angular React combination, as well as Node involved in that in the coming features. So here comes the next time for the next poll. In order to identify it, Scott, will you be able to run the poll for us?
Okay, so the next poll will start in just a moment. It'll be up on your screens. So the question is, where is your enterprise for application migration? Do you currently have no plans to migrate? Are you planning to fully migrate in the near future? Or are you at the evaluating stage for options and maybe doing some pilots? Or you're already undergoing full migration? or are you planning to go with hybrid applications? So we have just 60% of the audience has voted. Let's see if we can get back up to 80% again. This gives us a good indication of where our audience is and kind of where we're at as an industry here with notes applications. So we're over 80% voting. This is great. Give you 2 more seconds for one last click. Somebody's still looking, trying to decide. All right, let me go ahead and share the results. So 40% of the audience say they have no plans to migrate at this time. 30% are planning to fully migrate in the near future. 20% are evaluating or conducting pilots, and 10% are already in full migration mode. And nobody right now planning to go with hybrid apps. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Scott, for that. That gives a good idea. So even after finishing it, let's see, there are some changes in the plans. Okay, so we are just going to come into the domino and hybrid architecture. This is a big picture of that. So we have Domino in place. We are not going to migrate everything from Domino. Why? Because there are code bases available for decades, and everyone know what everything is doing on that. And usually we can see that when the developers has been modified the code and changed the code, added new functionalities, there is a less cleanup that happens in some of the applications, and that creates a big problem for the Domino, the older applications to remodify the code or delete any of the unused code kind of thing. And there will be non-availability of the technical architecture that has been initially designed and how it is working. So in order, we are keeping that in our mind. So we are not going to or scrap out the Domino functionalities, Domino workflow engines. We're just going to get it out in a place that slowly, step by step, and get it into the hybrid app. So for that, we will have the middleware and the front end that we are going to explain detailedly in the next slide about how it is going to happen. And from the middleware or the front end component, there is an Ajax or a service called a REST. Go to the Domino, pick up the data, because it's the data manipulation. We have seen how difficult it will be for an old data need to come back to a new system. So that we just go into the go to the Domino and pick up the data and the design parameters for if there is a form that is creating with the DXL, we get that design parameters of the Lotus scripts and initiate that and get the response to the front end middleware and execute that in the front end to the people. That is how the Domino plus the hybrid application collaborate together. So we leverage maximum of the Domino by using the request that we are sending into the Domino. Again, to the detailed applications of the hybrid app, what are the hybrid apps? We have seen what is the hybrid app. The hybrid app is, as we discussed, hybrid app is consists of a web app and a cover of native app on that. So all the HTML, JS, and CSS files that we put in the web app, we will design how it need to be designed with the responsiveness or with any kind of specifics that the customer is asking for, or the UI specification and UX specifications. And there is a config also file available in that front. Why the config file is important when it comes to the Domino? Because we need to know from where it need to be picked up, which Domino server need to be go, or what kind of functionality need to be captured. All this can be parameterized and be put in there and say that, hey, I need to get the request, I need to get the inquiries list, I need to get a view, a design kind of thing, or I need to get a grid that need to be populated, I need to get the view data and populate into the grid. So all these happen, all these were to go, and all the parameters will be putting on the config file. And there is rendering engines that will point it out with the API that will be connecting with the APIs, and that is the consist of the web app. So if you take this as a specific special component outside, then we can render it on a web page, a responsive UI on the computer, on the tablet, on the devices, on the smartphone devices. When we cover the native app, then it is consists as a hybrid app. There are so many options that we have seen how we can do that. We can use Cordova, we can use um, Ionic or phone gap in order to achieve that, because there are so many other small glitches that we, when we create to made all these functionality available with us. So all these frameworks will help us to avoid that. Then if the mobile then the APIs will contact, then the hybrid app is ready on this side. The hybrid app will contact the mobile operating system that is specifically of OS specific. When a hybrid app is ready, you can install it on either on the iOS platform or in the Android platform or Windows platform, because there is OS specifications that need to be there. Then the web view that we have seen, it is not very common in the iOS. iOS has its own difficulties, and Android has its own difficulties, or different methods to call different things. So that kind of OS specifications also can be handled by the supporting frameworks to an extent. There are some things that we need to handle with the APIs, for example, the camera invocation, the security thing. That is where the services comes. The services has so many services in the applications that can be contact to your operating system. For example, the camera, the notifications, the calendar, everything that can be as a services from the mobile device that can be leveraged as to the hybrid app. And once all these connections has all been set up very clearly, then we come back to the Domino, or go back to the Domino and say that, hey, I need a view design. I need a data from the view that which have access to this particular person, and get me that. So we have a small snippet of the code. There is some small development is need to be happen in the Domino. Also, we can not readily use uh, every code that is already written. We need to have an entry point saying that, hey, there is a request coming from a third party or from a hybrid app that is designed with the authentication keys or auth keys that we leverages or anything, and say that, yeah, this request is coming. We'll just give the response. The response is given by the server on behalf of the requesting user. So it will be very well respecting the readers, authors, and everything. So there is a small kind of development attribute to that, the entry point attribute, and change and pass it to the existing agent, or pass it to the existing script library, or any kind of functionalities on that. We'll see that. So this is the brief architecture that hybrid apps can be integrated with the Domino. Moving it to that, how do we choose whether we need a hybrid app or a full migration or anything? We are concentrating specifically on the hybrid app. How do we choose now? First of all, we need to understand the components that is in the existing application. What are the when I mean by the components, it is like, it is has a third party available, it is connecting to FTP, it is connecting to SAP, it is connecting to Salesforce, or any kind of connectivity, JDBC, ODBC connectivity, image rendering connectivity. And if that is available and all the components has been, we need to understand that what is the architecture that we are going that is already in the system. Is it an architect that nobody knows, or everything is written in a very well connect? And Then the third, but it is very important, how is the audience is it an internal company audience or it is a global wise audience, that we are going to do that. But for the global wise audience, we have limited capacity to manage everything, but in the internal company audience, we have policies and procedures can set up. That is why we need to understand that. The decision factor specifically mean on what is our need, what is so is the a device, is the application, new application that we are going to have has some device functionality need to be, for example, whether they need to take a picture from the camera or take a picture or from the browser or something like that and attach it. Is it they need to upload any files that quickly need to be going to a different image server and then manipulate from there and get back to the placeholder only? Or can we use the memory of the device really? And that is from the customer end user perspective, but from the IT architecture's perspective, how we are going to maintain it? Are we going to maintain it in a separate server, separate unique server, which firewalls and everything? Are we going to reduce the maintenance cost by upscaling and descaling the architect? So these are the decision parameters, and what are the key features that we need to do. And again, what is a UI UX model that we are going to present it? These are the main decision factors that we need to do. If these decision factors are positive, then I'll say that the hybrid app will be a good model rather than rewriting the Domino workflow engine completely in a different manner. Right. What about the frameworks and library? These are the frameworks and library. We have already seen that the supporting framework, which need to choose and how need to choose, whether you need to choose a React, we need to choose an Angular, we need to choose something else. We need to choose a grid kind of thing. So that is a decision factor that is completely depend upon the understanding of the existing architecture. Now we have seen all the hybrid apps, the advantages, disadvantages, and the decision parameters. Now we are going to go with the use cases. So the use case one that we are going to show is from it's a large automobile industries use case that we have worked through, and there are headquarters in different places of the world and in Germany. So they're situated in different parts of the world, for example, not the headquarters. Sorry for the tongue slip. So the history of the Notes app will just come. There are multiple applications involved in this. Then what is happening is this is a complete Notes-based application. So this work on a Notes application. This is inside the internal network. So this is an internal network application, and so and they have already existing single sign-on functionality. Even from the internal, the mobiles can be connected to the single sign-on functionality. With all that functionalities is readily available with Domino. So why it need to be changed? Because it contains so much complication, like the workflow engine of the a lot of nodes. Earlier nodes form is implemented, so there are default templates, and nobody has very clear eyes to the order code. So they need to move into a more user-friendly and then more globally than a small section. So they need to move into mobile applications and a tablet kind of modifications, as well as into the better UI. And they need to get into a web presence also, because earlier the web presence was not there, as we say that it was not only Nodes application. So in why we choose the OpenUA, because the customer also already have some OpenUA functionalities that is going on. So all the code, all the JS files are available there, and it's a beautiful framework if you look also. So what we have done is we have not invested anything on the server, since we know that the SSO is working fine, the authentication works fine, and it's only available for the internal people. So what we have done really is we created a Nodes application that is an entry point of the application, and says that hey, this is the entry point. We put all the OpenUI files here according to the version changes. And from there, we'll say that if one person is asking for a request, we will go to the Domino databases that is undergoing and say that, hey, I need a request for a leave request applications or a any kind of request applications, and say that, hey, I need to get the data. So then since everything is in nodes, the OpenUI is in nodes, the JS files is the common JS files. We put it in the HTML folder of the Domino in order to get the shipping conversions and everything correctly. But all the other files, the OpenUI main components are in that files, and the UI files, the framework that we have seen, HTML5 and CSS are there. So that part, we take in the OpenUI in that database, and then get pass it to AJAX request with a REST request to the other Domino application and get the data. And when what will happen, a new request is submitted, there is workflow in that. What we have done is the workflow will be captured in a JSON model of the data, and then push it to a JSON model to the respective databases. If it's a request database, it's an inquiry database, or any of the databases, since we know the structure of the databases, and the config will say that, yeah, from this, it need to be passed into this particular database. And the entry point of the code that I have discussed, that part we says that, yeah, if this data is new entry is coming up, then execute the code and push it to this particular database, the entry database, and execute the code there. So what will happen is all the workflow that has been working while a document is saved in the nodes will exactly lag, because we save with force so as the same at command file save that executing all the things. We have done that in the Lotus script so that it can be executed same. So we don't need to change majorly the code, revamp the code and the existing functionality, but we achieve what we need. We moved into that. But there are technical challenges. It is not that it doesn't have technical challenges. The technical challenges have, when the newer functionality comes up, the drag and drop functionality, the print functionality. So that all adapts to the JS and HTML functionality. That will not work exactly as the nodes as we see now in the nodes environment, but it is possible with some coding expertise in JS and HTML file, we can be making that. And in this application case, we don't have that much data. The data was a little less, like 100,000 documents in the databases. So it's easy to populate, show the views display. And the views we shows as a XML component, so that can be usely. And I will not be able to show the application of any of the use cases. So, but we are ready to do a demo. If you want to us to do a demo, please contact us. We'll be very happy to show the demo for you, how it is working and how the code is structured. So this is a small screenshot of that application. I just took it from a web part because I know that I can explain that a little better. So on the left hand side, there is a nodes left hand menu, the default. Anyone who works with the nodes know that when it goes to the OpenUI and it's go to the browser app and to the native app, or the hybrid app, then it will be in a different structure. So the OpenUI give that facility to a tile-like environment so that it can be leverages, and from there it shows it. So that is how about the left-hand menu we have modified, and a form, as you can see, that the nodes form as well as the OpenAI form. And if you see that all these save and draft clause, submit the request has at formulas. So these at formulas are a little tricky one when we migrate. And the evaluate a command in the Lotus scope help us a better job to get that done in the port. So, but again, some of the options we need to change it to Lotus script, but that still works. That's not as a full migration then. So this is what it's a small applications. From the data, it is a small application. From the code base, it's big, but it's a nodes application. This is the use case one. Then the next use case I'm going to show you is a nodes plus mean architecture, or a full stack architecture. We are changing that a little bit. So this is a very legacy application. It was there around for 10, 12 years in the system, and this is completely web-based from the beginning. So it is the forms has mm, uh, the pass-through HTML commands and the HTML components, and it is completely web-based application. So earlier we have seen the node-based application. Now we are going to see the web-based application. But this is for a shopping, and there is a survey product that is available globally for a company. So they need the better UI at any point of time in order to capture the market. Otherwise, they will be going down. The product will be going down. So for that purpose, we need to modernize that UI, and as every user needs, they need to be in the hands of the mobile app. But the functionality is very huge, and the code base is very huge, so that it is not easy to the complete migrate the system and work it as. So we did a hybrid touch on that. We did eliminate the UI into a new system, and the same procedure. We most of the workflows, that means I would say that 80% of the workflow will happen from the nodes itself. So we have that leverage of using it. And 100% of data is in the nodes, because the data is privacy protected, and all the protection need to be happen. So that is there in the nodes. So we are not going to change that, at least for now. The data transfer that we are going to see. So this is a very large system, and the minimum database size is a 16 GB size. That is the high volume of data that it has, and it has integration with images. It has integrations with all the other things, and DIOS is enabled. So we need to handle that. How to the pointer. The objective is to get the offline capability to a little limiter model and the modern US. So how we achieve it? I'm just quickly going into that. We're just having the node JS. Why we put the node JS is because it's a cross-platform environment and a server-side networking application, and it's single-threaded, and it's also IO-bound application and a JSON API application. So we decided the Node.js in order to give extra protection to the Domino server, so that all the hybrid things that need to be server-based thing will go on not on Domino, on the Node.js and run. We have MongoDB and SQLite combination. SQLite is for the offline, for the mobile apps, and the MongoDB is to uh, create and keep the config files that we have discussed in order to where to go, and that needs security, that needs encryption, and that needs a components of replication as well. That's why we decided on the MongoDB. It's a very small DB. But we have put for extra protection, in order to get into the Domino, we just say that we are not sending any request from the node directly to the Domino. We are only sending through a pass-through nginx, because we can consider and configure the configurations from where it comes. So we say that whatever comes to the Domino, it should only from the local host, and then it will do that. So that's why we decided the choices, because we need extra protection, and privacy of the data is very much a matter. How the architecture goes? The architecture go is HTTP from the Domino, from the end user or from the application. It goes to the nginx reverse proxy, and it goes the node, the initial step, and from the node it will rewrite and go to the Domino again. So the TCP will contact Mongo, and the HTTP or the REST contact, depending upon the node, it will contact the Domino through the nginx. Where we have used Angular on that because we have developed in Angular 1 and we are now in Angular 4 developing, but we have a choice of making some of these elements available with the Node and the React framework also. So we are going to do that. So this is a rough architecture, and the rest of the data passing architecture is the same as we have discussed in the use case 1. And the technical architect is, we have already seen this diagram in a bigger way. We put in the web app, we put the connection there to the Domino as well. So how we manage is we have offline capabilities as we discussed. Of the offline capabilities is managed to only to get connection with the Domino. So that is mean with the auth keys that is submitted to enhance the user experience freely available of flowing of data. And how the data is managed? The data is managed by getting the more we are getting the gathering the data by hundreds and getting it. There are technical challenges. When I say the data is hundreds by hundreds, we are just putting 100 documents at a time and then loading it so that for the end user, it doesn't say that the data is not coming. For the end user, it is fast, but for the Domino, it's saying that, yeah, we are getting all the data and specified. That's why we are using the node as a basic thing. What are the technical challenges that we have seen is, and all these things, the compilation is one of the technical challenges because iOS need an iOS device to compile, or the solution is we need to go to the cloud-based solutions and then we can do that. And there are technical difficulties when we put a system outside of Domino, that is the authentication and ACL, because Domino is so good in handling the security and Domino will not allow us to breach there. So for that, we need to have an authentication module written at that in a different database with consider auth key and our own encryption level so that it can be communicated easily without any problem. So all these has been overcome by creating a code snippets on the Domino side as well as a little bit of JavaScript and maximize using the AOT principles and getting in Domino 9, it's a little more easier to get all these approaches, but in the earlier of 853 and everything, it's a little more complex coding that is needed, but there is this, that has been achieved. And a small screenshots of the application that I have shown in the use case two is there's a nodes form, there's a nodes UI, and there's an email that is coming into the mobile. So these is with Angular and Node right now, but we are going to we have a component that is working in the React as well. So this is about the hybrid apps that we are talking about, leveraging existing data and the functionalities for now in the Domino without creating huge courses. As I said, we are not able to show the demo or the code base kind of thing, but if you're interested, please contact us. We'll be ready and happy to do the demo for you. And over to questions if you have anything.
Okay, so while we're thinking about questions, we do have a couple questions logged up, or queued up, I should say. And I'm going to open up my questions window. So this is the time to type in. We already have several questions from the audience. So I just need to expand this because we do have some long questions. Give me 1 second here. Okay, the first question is queued up from Curtis. Thank you very much, Curtis, for your question. How do you handle attachments, rich text, and MIME rich text with the hybrid solutions?
Okay, that's a good question. So the attachments we are handling in two places. Either we will put it into a separate attachment databases. Attachment consists of we limited it into the document, PDF images, and everything, and then put it into the separate file path or in a separate database, and from there directly HTTP into the browser because it has a web browser component. So when you show that, it will be seeing there as a limited entries. And while uploading it, the same functionality, we will upload it to a separate database, and then there will be a placeholder that will go and pick up and put it. So this will work uniquely. This is one model, direct uploading and thing. We don't anticipate from a mobile app or a hybrid app to attach a 10 Mbps file directly into the Domino server. But what we in order what we'll do is we will save the pointers and then upload on the back end to the and attaching to the database with the parameters like document UNID, the IDs and everything. By retrieving a MIME test entry, so if you have a rich text field and if you have a big screen with paragraphs and everything, we will take the MIME test entries and then create as a as a MIME text and then pass it to the HTML directly. But if you have any attachments into the rich text field, embedded attachments, embedded images, then we extract that and show it as a different thing. So there is a little complexity when we are handling initially, but that is we have multiple ways to handle it, either direct or through a different database or through a different image server. Hope that answers your question.
Okay, perfect. Yep, thank you very much. Bill had asked if there were some other examples you might be able to provide to them of to that person, if outside of these examples that you've provided. So I've said that we would respond directly to Millen for that. So for some additional ideas. Um, um, Great. Next question is, do you get full device access when using hybrid apps?
Yeah, we the device application access is depending upon is for the camera, calendar, offline storage, geolocations, and for all these things. If we while installing the application itself, we will ask for the access to the user. If the user provides us, then we will get a not a complete access, because that difference on iOS as well as in Android, because the access levels are different. But we will get a minimum access to write and read from the information that we will get and to execute. If it's a camera, we can create, crop, and every other functionalities we will get. So all these things will be available in the hybrid app as well.
Okay, perfect. And what about security? How do you handle, like, when you're transferring data back to Domino or Domino down to the device? How do you handle security from?
Okay. So that's a very good point. The security is the main aspect of the Domino. So when we transfer the data into the Domino, or think that we are transferring as the person who are signed in the mobile app. So we have a nodes and NAB entry or as an anonymous entry, either thing, and depending upon the application. So when we transfer the data, we are already signed in with that user privilege in the Lotus Nodes world. The server is signed in on behalf of this user. So if the user is sending some data that is not able to upload into the Domino environment, it will completely reject and it will show a failure response. The same as we get back also for the from the user privilege has to get data, then only it will get. And in this data, there is a middleman approach that can happen, because any theft can happen in the middleman with approaches. So we have done an encryption module in the middle, so that the data will not transfer as a plain text. That data will be encrypted and transferred and decrypted on both the sides, on the front end and on the side. So that module need to be happen. Back to Scott.
Okay, perfect. And we've talked about the criteria, some of the things you've already mentioned in your presentation, but is there really a tried and true formula for choosing the ideal target platform? So when you're
Well,
migrating, yeah, I guess the question is, based on the experience that Maarga has had, is there a perfect criteria to choose the ideal target platform to migrate the apps?
So this is Chirag. Let me answer that quickly. So, obviously the answer is no. There is no tried and tested one way of doing it. It depends on the combination of what skills the client has, what platforms they're invested in, and what the use case is. And that's for hybrid. Even if you go for full migration, that doesn't hold true. I've had a customer who at the top level made a decision to move all their business applications to Salesforce, for example, and Force.com. And midway through the project, they've realized that there are applications which do very simple functionality, something similar to a leave management across the firm, and was accessible to all their employees. And now, if you have to build the same thing in Salesforce, you would be charged by the number of people accessing that application, the number of objects being used. So it's a no-go for them to invest that much money into something that trivial. And then they have to look at other platforms like SharePoint going forward for such cases. So even after you make the decision, there are cases where you have to rethink and pivot from your decisions.
Okay, perfect. Next question, and this is the last one that's in the queue. So if anyone's still thinking about a question or want something's come to mind, now's the time to get it typed in. We are kind of running out of time, but we'll do this last question and one more if anyone puts another question in. So the last question is will the new Domino 10 version make it easier to set up a hybrid environment?
Yeah, it's supposed to be every versions of Domino is making it easier and simpler because I heard that the node is coming, the authentication module is coming with the Domino 10, so it is supposed to be get a little more interesting to work on that and make it easy. That's what our thoughts are.
Just to add
Okay.
to that, I think IBM has been coming out with this Domino application on cloud service as well. So we did not talk about it, but there are webinars that IBM is conducting on that. And those could be one of the options if you are not moving it to a hybrid model with cloud, but moving the application as is to cloud.
Okay, perfect. One last question. How difficult is it to change the Domino database to make it REST enabled?
Okay, so that is a little need to be server side configurations also need to be changed. We will be definitely able to help that on that. So if you can contact us, we'll be able to help on that as well.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, some of these questions I think are like the Domino 10 questions, a little bit about the future, but I think some people are kind of excited about the options that are going to be coming with that. And Curtis, thank you again for that last question. Okay, so I think we're at the end of our time. We're just a little bit over time, but a lot of material to cover, a lot of things to consider when you're thinking about a hybrid environment or what to do with the Domino applications. So this is definitely an option to consider, especially if there's options to keep a Domino server. And we'll go from there. So Chirag and Linoy, thank you very much for your presentation. Do you have a final slide with contact information?
Yeah, definitely, yes.
Okay, so if you have an interest or have additional questions that come to mind afterwards, then reach out to Maarga Systems. You'll see their website down here on the lower left. They also have a toll-free number here for the US. And then if you're not in the US, you can certainly contact them directly via email. And we'll go from there. So Chirag, I'll give you guys the last word and then we'll go ahead and end the webinar.
Thank you, Scott. So we are happy to entertain any questions even after this. Our contact details are on the screen. You can write to us or we can even have a call. So we would like to thank you today for spending the time with us. And I'd like to thank Scott for all the introductions and hosting us, and Linoy for this wonderful introduction to the hybrid apps. Thank you and
Thank
have
you.
a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye bye, all.